watch this video. Then after watching this video, then be the judge to judge by yourself. I don't want to talk too much. Let's watch the video. Don't go anywhere.
Practically speaking, all of the north of Nigeria is infested with jihadists, but the persecution goes all the way down, probably to the coast. And the strike by the president are very important. It could be the beginning, it could be the end, depending on what the reaction will be. But if we consider a longer range actions, it would be very possible that we could see an American presence on the coast of Nigeria, where most of the Christian community is. It was called Biafra in the past. So all of this is ahead of us. We will see how the president will decide.
Yeah.
They couldn't get him to promise that he would renounce his agitation for Biafra. That's the biggest problem. That was his main crime. They said it. If they even proposed to me that I should go tell him to enter his defense, and if he enters his defense, then if they release him, he should promise that he will form a political party and participate in politics. And if he can do that, they will have no problem with him. He said no. I want the Biafran. I want my region to be different from Nigeria because Nigeria doesn't, cannot support our aspiration for greatness. Now, my caveat is that I am opposed to breaking up Nigeria. I'm a Pan-Africanist. But I have seen, read, and known that it is not a crime for people to seek self-determination. So,
they are going nowhere. They are part of us and we are part of them. We must live with them. You can't drive them away and they can't drive us away. They are our neighbors, so we should never allow them to be our enemies. And if my enemy states by our actions we have turned them into enemies, then we are finished. Because our real enemy will use them against us. As your real enemy will use your neighbor against you. And nobody knows your secret more than your neighbor. He knows when you come back and when you go out. So we should never allow herdsmen to be our
How many of you can still remember this video? This very video that I'm about to watch. How many of you will still record this video? Let's watch the video so that we can relate. Then after watching the video, the next part, if you are not an Igbo type, just after watching this one, you can exit because this is where the whole game is so interesting.
An Egyptian television news program says that Turkey is clearly a terrorist state with a broad reach. It reports that Turkey is supplying weapons to the terrorist group Boko Haram in Nigeria. 10 TV host Nashat Al-Delhi reported on a leak confirming an intercepted phone call from a few years back confirming the action. He reported in part, today's leak confirms without a doubt that Erdogan, his state, his government, and his party are transferring weapons from Turkey to, this is a shock, to where you may ask, to Nigeria. And to whom? To the Boko Haram organization. Well, Raymond Ibrahim, a journalism fellow at the David Horowitz Freedom Center and an expert on the Middle East and Islam, joins us now with more on this. Welcome, Raymond.
Hello, Heather.
Are you surprised by this report? What's your take on it?
No, I'm not surprised. And my take on it is that the actual tape that was made that you referenced and you quoted was made apparently in 2014 or 15. And it was reported widely in certain areas in the U.S. and in the West, not so much, and not much came out of it. And the reason, I think, is because Erdogan wasn't didn't have his fingers so much in Islamist politics outside of his own nation. But now that we've seen, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the ISIS Islamic State caliph who was killed recently, and he was found just 3 miles from the Turkish border, which is in fact one of the last, or if not the last bastion of jihadi so-called freedom fighters of attacking the Syrian government. It's brought it up again, the fact that everyone is saying, well, look, he's supporting ISIS. So now we're remembering, and that was, I think, the point of the Egyptian show. We're bringing back to see that there's some continuity here. It's not just right next door to Syria, to Turkey, meaning Syria. He's involved with some of the absolute worst Islamic terror groups. Remember, Boko Haram, which its name loosely means Western education is forbidden, haram. was basically doing what ISIS is notorious for years before ISIS. So the whole, head chopping, crucifying, massacres, enslaving women and children, burning people alive, Boko Haram was doing that. And one of the things that international observers have been noticing, especially increasingly, is that their armaments, their weapons, are very sophisticated. And it's even spilled into the Fulani tribesmen in Nigeria and in other parts in Africa. For example, I'm sure you know, Burkina Faso, also in Western Africa, attacks on Christians have become horrific. Just in the last few months, there have been so many killed, and always in the context of checking out if they're wearing crosses, if they can say the Islamic Creed or not, and then being butchered and so forth. And those tribesmen, the Fulani, who are essentially living almost on a primitive scale, appear with very advanced weaponry.
Well, that's really interesting, which would kind of seem to perhaps give more weight to this idea that perhaps Turkey is collaborating with Boko Haram. What would the benefit be to Turkey of collaborating with Boko Haram?
Well, there's several theories. One is Erdogan basically is an ardent Islamist, and he is supporting and behind any Islamist movement in any country. He's the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. He was allied with Qatar of Al Jazeera as his ally. And so you can see him, he's trying to help develop these Islamist groups so they can overthrow more secular states. Though, in fact, in Nigeria, an aside that I think is important, the president himself, Muhammad Buhari, of Nigeria, who's Muslim, Nigeria is half Christian, half Muslim, has been accused himself of being behind the so-called genocide, which a lot of international groups have called what's happening to Christians in Nigeria, that he himself is complicit in this armament. So he could very well be an ally of Erdogan and so forth, and it's just some sort of Islamist overall coalition globally.
I want to ask you, the President Trump, of course, met with the President of Turkey yesterday. Do you think he's aware of these kind of ties to terrorism? And what are your thoughts on that meeting yesterday?
Well, in general, I think, what he's aware of is really hard to tell. But I think the meeting in general, Trump and presidents won't necessarily bring up all these things, obviously. So when he met, for example, in Saudi Arabia with the king and so forth, he doesn't really mention human rights abuses and so forth for whatever strategic tactical reasons. So it's really hard to predict, but I think he needs to be aware because Erdogan's he's got his fingerprints everywhere now. It's not just Syria, which is very obvious, but now there's older evidence of him involved in Nigeria and also in Turkey itself, the Christian population, the minority there. And remember, Turkey was originally entirely Christian. It was Anatolia. It was actually where St. Paul wrote all his epistles to. They're really being treated badly and discriminated against, and a lot of hate preaching in Turkey is increasingly against Christians and Jews. So definitely Turkey's going down the wrong path with Erdogan, though many Turks themselves remain committed to the Ataturk ideal of secularism.
Well, we are out of time, but Raymond Ibrahim, thank you for your time and your insights here.
Thanks, Ray.
Igbo people, ekele m ụnụ ọlọlọ Nneka Chimezie na-ekwu anyị na-ewetara n'ọnọdụ Igbo. Biko onye m na-ezikarị ozi ahụ Dr. Ngozi Orabueze, Prime Minister, Biafran Government in Exile. Na asị na asọkata eze anya ekpere ekete gwa ya okwu. Achọrọ m ịma ihe your followers ga-eme na adọka mana we are no longer fools. And ama m ọga anyị lụgidere lobie clean ahụ ụnụ na ihe agwọtọkọ n'ala Igbo. Because Simon Nnamdi Kanu nọ na nga today wo broadcast Simon Ekpa, most of you broadcast ga nke anyị nọ akwa ya iPop maka eme unu bịa repi ga na ahụ Nnamdi Kanu were ya na-ekwu okwu then unu kwuzie channel iPop release by any statement na this protest a na-eme maka ha na-eji nwa ya arụ ihe na mmadụ adịghị ị na-eme ihe na-erelease your secret na-eji onwe gị. I think kita na ka obia do manya because what tell them no na do manya na ha na-eji nwa ya arụ, they don't make noise. Mana unu pụta ha na-eme ihe na arụ n'okwu unu pụta unu make a statement. Were ya na we ndị by na again followers. Ị pụtala ugbu a na make a statement. Support ihe a na-eme which is good. Mana another statement mhụ ị na-ekwu bụ na directive to ndị ahịa. So ha stop kula protest. You want that right. I won't give you won't chairman in the main market. You won't chairman in the main. He can we can add your voice to those on a kuriku and not give directive. Let him hear now game. In a directive never to stop. Very soon now. Ndojo no lugi ha bu egbe. Okay? Ha bu egbe. bido gbawa before ịmara ihe na-eme ụgba na agaghị akpọ ele ihe na ụlọ nso n'ụwo gọọmenti in exile IPOB ka a ga-akpọ ụta ka eji 10 nọ IPOB yara bịa biko ihe m na-ayọ gị iwu ihe nwewo iso Biafran government in exile nọ na exile ahụ menwe organized government na exile ị gaghị anụ eme gọọmenti na exile bịa na-enye ọda na south east a lot of people nwụ na south east ndị IPOB kpọrọ protest sit at home Monday ọ Simon Ekpa bịa ọnụkata ya sọ 14 days ọnụkata ya sọ 1 week ndị IPOB na-eti a na-echezi okwu ọ na-ada n'elu na-ada ngharịta enwetaghị ma nke na-eme biko investigation m mere gosi na Simon Ekpa sef your leader awụ the member of IPOB mgbe a na-ekpe ya ikpe ajụọ ya si ma owe member of IPOB ya no media ebuo ya na chọọchị na odi na ya la IPOB eso m chọọchị chee na odi na ya na IPOB amaghị m na nwa amadi awụ the member of IPOB he never reported with Radio Biafra not sure na onye ajọsụ nnọọ hijack ya take advantage of ghara ururu m na-eme na achọghị m ịgawa deep were bịazie ọ nọ n'ebe ahụ ya anya ọda even enweta mgbe kebara mara ahụ mgbe ọ si ebutela more tank 3 anyị chekwara na-egwuregwu m na-aga somewhere na Nsukka road na-ele more than 40,000 highest bus bụrụ ndị amị that day ka m mara na Nsukka ka esi aga north bụrụ ndị amị na-enukwute m na-ajụ ndị amị ka osholie gịnị na-eme with tanks asasọ Simon Ekpa launch ala amon tank enwedo ka launch enwe village ọsịa na launch ihe ndị amị ga ha wure dia bulldozer chụchara anyị village ọ ya ka ndị mma nji tụwa ya aka na ọ dị ka Nigerian government na-eyuzu o mee ka ọ trans enwekwa ihe ọ na-eme enwe ebe agbagburu ndị amị ya claim responsibility aga nwụ village ahụ I think we've had enough of that bullshit. Dr. Ngozi Orabaeze biko iwu government in exile enye une directive or instruction here anyị nwe nọ n'ụlọ ọ gị lọta here sonye anyị n'ọrụ ka anyị ga-alọta ị ga-ama lọlọ Nneka Chimeze anọ m n'ụlọ na-eti iche ama m ihe anyị tigidere wee kilie ahụ unu niile wee nyopụta na federal gọọmenti nke Buhari hijakịrị nonsense ahụ unu na-ekwu jide yut anyị sọ ka akwa gaa n'ụlọ akpụrụ yut gagbuo ihe egburu because ị na-enweta Biafra Nnamdi Kanu si na ya chọrọ inweta Biafra peacefully and ESN na ori etuwu iche nche n'ime ọhịa and ị na-ekwe aka na-ekwukwe n'ọnụ ọhịa ka ha nọ ọ na-abịa kwerigide ihe unu kwerigide ọsọ hakwala again ọkwụna hụrụ ka o si eme je ntụdị ya ahụ arịpụtakwala Soludo maka na ịma na abịazi chefuzie ihe butere sitatom butere ndị amị n'ụlọ nọ sitatom na ndị Igbo asị na ọ by force na force ga ndị Igbo eji ekpikọka nnọọ ndị Igbo gbakwa nkịtị ka na ọ na-ada dia sitatom wee chefuo ihe kpọta ndị amị na oze mepesha business centers na be anyị ihe ewe ihe ndị gọvanọs anyị mere mgbe ndị gọvanọs anyị kpọtazi asarị dịkịbụ ọnụ na-ekwuzi asarị na-egbu ewee bozie ya IPOB just to blackmail IPOB and destroy IPOB. So Dr. Ngozi Orabaeze, in as much as we all appreciate mbọ anyị na-agba one way or the other mụ president of Igbo Women Assembly na-ehikwa aja ka ị ga na-ehi mana inye ọda mota please disease you are not the president of IPOB, you are not even a member of IPOB self. So otu unu and unu ga-apụta kọwara anyị aha otu unu aga bụla agbakọ ego ọnwụ na ahụ Nnamdi Kanu because ọ ya na-eme ụta ka echepụta sign na Nnamdi Kanu mere Simon Ekpa onye isi aga m join myself ọsị mba n'ihe ya si ya were platform ya promote wee ụna aha jack is a war government ghara ike na wee jide ala Igbo dori edetawa ha kwala again biko onye ọbụla hụrụ ihe a na tụsaa ya tiri ya ruo Dr. Ngozi Orabaeze n'aka si ya na anyị nabatara their government in exile ya chụwa ha na exile ahụ ha nọ ọchị inye ọda ya nye members ya ọda na exile ahụ ha nọ then ọ bụrụ na e nwere members ha n'ebe ha bịa kpụrụ ụkwụ ha gawa na exile ahụ ga-achụwa ha achụwa ịga ha na ebe ahụ na ya directive ndị na-emere onwe ha protest peacefully wụ ndị main market ọwụda IPOB dịrị ha wụdụkwana your member in exile ngụnwe ịpụtasị ha don't stop ịkwa iwala ọkụ ụta ka o si ebido because most of ihe ndị unu na-eme ewu unu mewe announcement ugbu a na ya dị federal government ka ọwụ unu nọ in charge ka ọ dabịa negotiation Could there be one ego? That is this relevance, ocular relevance, card or that can control. I pop no chon no kuru. Lapu on a dewe. What do you cannot because I am the consequences of in public. They're not put on the mayor public. For what reason exactly? If not for selfishness. So because of Tongo or Abese and my yogi, it would do and I has a main market. I'll have to get the main market. I take it. How decide and the main market I name put it decide the and Haga push it and half push it. One another day. Ding another day. I might have my one in another place. In your hand, our way will one now, but I him what you get me. Did they will not get a kunumere? I don't know go by the lease everywhere. Here my one demand markets. On edge of Palo Jotane when you on air like a moon intimidate. On what choose to do this protest. What of laws you don't know my mania? On air to anybody's directive. I won't know one name here. On a motor she did on no. So on a mayor town she did on. Because don't go to a base. She wants to get in exile. She wants to get in exile. Happy guy pop up here. I have them why your name here. Now direct, Kihini here and I got to advice on again. On I got Namdecalos no DOS. Was it leadership so now I got to demand none anger? Because on my name outside. So on the sincere, I saw with DOS with leadership. So turn on anger, I question 1 year step in the shoe. So on this sincere. In when he couldn't cut him when he suggests. In here, Genius, if it has make a public message to do. Because Anna mentioned and Kuno other Hayama, Kekoshia, henceforth.
That they have watched the full clips, what did you see? Well, for me, this is a total edge for Biafra restoration. Whatever you see or whatever you hear, don't just conclude yet. Time will tell. Let's wait and see. Things is quite unfolding. Who am I? I'm only a messenger. If you love what I do here in this Global Love Channel TV, please don't hesitate to touch your hand for subscribe button. Like and turn on the notification bell. Then whenever we upload a new video like this, you'll be the first person to be notified. And in doing that, you're encouraging us to do more. And togetherness, we shall save life together because Africa life matters. If you see something, always say something because an injustice for one remains an injustice for all. Till next time, see you in my next video.